Thanks very much for having me and thanks for staying. It's always tricky towards the end of the day. We're getting a little tired. What I'd like to do is I have got some slides prepared and I have got some thoughts for you, but I understand the Q&A has been really vibrant and very exciting today, so I'd like to make sure that we leave plenty of time for that. So I'm not going to drown you in PowerPoint. I'll try not to anyway. I've only got about 10 slides, so it shouldn't be too hard. Perhaps also pull together some of the themes that you've probably talked about today. Try not to tell you and talk about things you've already talked about, and make it as interesting as possible. So I called the presentation Digital Disruption in the Boardroom, and deliberately missed out a comma or a hyphen, and thought I would leave it to you to decide where to put it. Is it digital disruption in the boardroom? Or is it digital disruption in the boardroom? Subtle, but actually quite an important understanding for those of you in CMO, digital CMO, C-suite level roles, looking to influence your CEOs and ultimately your board, as many of the decisions that you will be making that require significant transformation actually don't necessarily stop at the CEO. There is another level of hierarchy to get through, and that is the boardroom. So I wanted to bring that very much into the dialogue that we're going to finish on today, and get some healthy discussion about that. There are some challenges, and this is one of my favourite quotes of more recent times. It's from Douglas Adams, for those of you that have read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or indeed watched a variety of different movies on it. I've come up with a set of rules that describe our reactions to technologies. Anything that's in the world when you're born is normal and ordinary, and it's just a natural part of the way the world works. I have twins who are 4 and a 7-year-old, and if it doesn't do this, it doesn't work. They know all of our passwords. They seem to be able to navigate their way around our technology at a speed of light without anybody having told them how to do that. They know what App Store looks like. They know when I have to put the password in to get them a game. Frankly, my life and my wallet, electronic wallet anyway, needs to be better protected probably than it is. They're 4 and 7. Anything that's invented between when you're 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. This was probably me. I think it was late 80s when I first started work. At 18, I didn't go to university. Went straight into a small box-shifting computer reseller. Very quickly learned how to stick cables together with PCs, ship them out the door, earn a lot of money, drive a Golf, you know, what wasn't to like, age 20. Yeah, I was working for, you know, sales directors who were 20 plus years older than me. Couldn't fathom, you know, what went with what. And we were then on a roller coaster ride through the Microsoft evolution that I joined when I was 23. So that was me. I'm definitely in that bit. Anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things. And that's what we find ourselves up against perhaps now. I took a straw poll. Not quite straw, I added it all up. So I looked through all the companies that are represented here today. I went online, and when I didn't know who your chairman was, I went and found them, and I looked up how old they all were. This is my world, obviously. I spend quite a lot of time in it. The average age, you won't be surprised to learn, is 60. There isn't a single woman on this list. This is another survey. The thing you want to look at is the yellow bar. I didn't stick it on a slide. I thought I'd talk about it. So in the FTSE 100, 250, small cap and AIM, the average age of a chairman is 61.26 years. The executive director is slightly younger, 51. And the non-executive directors are nearly 59. And there's only 27% of women in the FTSE 100, 21% in the FTSE 250, 14% in small cap, and 5 in AIM. For anybody that's in that middle bucket, which a lot of the people are who are trying to influence, you might be sitting there thinking you've got your work cut out for you, because all those other people that you're trying to influence are pretty much in the last bucket. And a lot of what is going on in our world, both for ourselves in business and for our customers and for our providers, is, according to Douglas Adams, alien. And so what we have to think about is, how do we reach the boardroom and reach our CEOs with the messages that are critically important for our businesses to hear and understand, and to enable them to understand those messages and to take the appropriate action and support the business growth that we need. I thought this was quite a nice little slide. I pinched it from Media Vision. I'm sure they won't mind. It's online, so what's online is good for sharing. Bear that in mind when you post pictures, in case you haven't worked that one out already. But here's Google's evolution revolution. And interestingly, I was at the IOD conference this week as well. Matt Britton, who is an ex-associate of mine, was speaking on the platform. And Google's evolution since 97, is phenomenal. The amount of technical innovation just this one organisation has made is frankly unprecedented, and you could never have predicted this. And having worked at Microsoft, and Bill Gates used to sort of say, I know that what will be true is that I will sort of overestimate what might happen in potentially 50 years and underestimate what will happen in 10, because the pace of change and Moore's law is so significant that almost it is inconceivable that if you had written this slide, in 97 as a Google executive and said, this is where we're going to be and this is how much money we're going to be making, you'd have been laughed out of the place. So sometimes giving the direction of travel with examples that have actually been and come to pass, can also be quite an interesting and helpful way to demonstrate that organisations that were also around in 1997, for example, and have not embraced this change, well, surprise, surprise, we've seen a number of them go by the wayside very quickly and vividly over the last few years. Any number of them, HMV, Blockbuster, you name it, they were thriving businesses, 15 years ago. They just don't exist anymore because they were fundamentally too slow. They were just too slow. They didn't read the top, and if it got to the top, it wasn't being actioned. So certainly it's a salient moment in time to be able to share some of this information with the board. But there is quite a big divide still, and it's one of those things that needs to be addressed and crossed. This would suggest that 88% of companies are undergoing some form of digital transformation, but actually only 25% have done anything about mapping what that actually looks like and what is changing with my customers, with their customer journey, and clearly understanding both the new distribution platforms, which is what a lot of people call it, the path to reach those individuals, and whether they are performing effectively and efficiently or whether they are underperforming, and what those new metrics look like. And if you were to ask, as I believe this is a PwC report, and again, all of this is freely available online, the wealth of information that you can bring to bear to help you in your arguments is significant. It doesn't take very much effort and energy to go and find it. Would suggest that strategically important and imperative actions that do get further up the food chain certainly have an awful lot of sort of buzzwords around them. So mobile technologies for customer engagement. Well, what does that mean? Why would I do it? If my customer can talk to me on my mobile, does that mean they need to transact on a mobile? And then a whole range of other issues around point number 3, for example, cybersecurity and other matters come very swiftly to bear. So what do your boards and your CEOs care about? And how might you address these matters to them? This is also freely available should you ever decide that you want a bit of light bedtime reading. It's called the UK Corporate Governance Code. And this is what your boards live and breathe by. And the 5 things in it are on the slide. And in very quick summation, fundamentally, those are the 5 things that your board cares about: leadership, effectiveness, accountability, remuneration, and relations with shareholders. It is how they govern and seek to support the business. And it's free. I brought a copy with me, but it's on the FRC website. You can download it or you can order some. It's quite interesting just because of the headlines, but what I've tried to do is perhaps break out those headlines a little bit as it relates to our topic of conversation, to see if I could make some suggestions that might be helpful. There is a transformation that will occur as boards change over time. There will be a digital transformation and there will be digital agendas. One day, I look forward to sitting in a boardroom that looks like this, where I'm dialoguing around a board table that is an electronic board table, and we are Skype calling across international boundaries. I've never sat in one so far, I have to say. But if I have my way, it will come. Just need to pick the right company. But let's talk about those things. Leadership, first of all. When you're talking to your board about digital transformation, digital strategies, the question could be framed along the lines of, do we have the right vision and strategy for digital, along with the right leadership and focus required to support this vision? Bless you. Under effectiveness, do we have the right products and services and the ability to develop, manage, and provide them effectively? Do we have the right processes, controls, and digital technologies to support the operations of our business? Do we have the right people, talent, skills, knowledge to support that vision, product, and service? And last but not least, I would argue, in the broadest sense of the word, do we have the right approach to understanding and communicating with our customers to succeed in the digital environment? And under each of those headings, I believe there is an opportunity to craft a communication to your CEO and to your board that can be heard and understood and put to them in a language that they can understand and digest. Fundamentally, the challenge for everybody who's looking to create digital transformation in their organisations is to lead change. And I don't know how many of you are Cotter fans, but I would highly recommend the Leading Change book, because actually the steps to lead change hold true for this topic as they do for many, many others. And this is a slide from Gartner. A little busy for you, I apologise, but if they're in the pack later, or you can look at them online, again, totally available online. This gives you an axis of leading and targeted innovation in the top right, always the place where we want to be, top right, versus vague and lagging over in the bottom left. And taking a chart with this and applying your own organisational structure and challenges to it would be, or could be, also quite an effective way for you to describe where you are on that journey and what do future steps in that journey look like, potentially putting some time frames around it and potentially making that quite action-oriented. The ultimate challenge is, of course, through getting the business to navigate its way through the digital business development path. And again, hopefully, we're not too many businesses that are still analogue. However, I think it would be fair to say there are a number of businesses where things like CRM systems are perhaps not as fully functional and integrated particularly. So moving from the offline world, as it were, into this first stage of web world, I think we would all be quite surprised to find there are probably a significant proportion of businesses that are still here, and that there is still quite a significant journey to go on before you even start to get to things like automated business operations, mobile and big data. And in some respects, I caught a little bit of the conversation you were having as I came in. The reason why these words are still talked about all the time is because people are still getting their heads around what they mean. And so actually, most people are here. And very few, very, very few businesses could truly say they've made the leap to be a digital business. Unless, back to my very first slide perhaps, they've started in the last 10 to 15 years. That's where they've started. They've started as a digital business. They didn't have any of the baggage. They haven't had to change anything. They haven't had to drag systems kicking and screaming with them. They've just been able to start from scratch. And that's the world that we're in as executives. And it's a really interesting space because many of us will have come from the old world and are now helping others to navigate and to do business in a new world. Accenture did a little survey, which I quite liked. I thought I'd share a few little anecdotes with you about the changing role of individuals in this and the type of things that they can do to help and to play a part. And they were debating the rise of the CDO, Chief Digital Officer. And some of the statistics they published are quite interesting. 31% of marketers are ill-informed about tech. And yet 36% of them will routinely bypass the IT guys and go directly to outside vendors and ad agencies without first checking for any internal solutions. I suspect it's not a surprise to the people in this room that in 2017 it is predicted that CMOs will spend more than IT on than their counterpart CIOs. And in the company that I chair, the cloud computing business, one of the things that we are finding very much is the rise of the CMO, who is dictating marketing policy and strategy around the type of activity and innovation that they believe they need to be able to communicate directly and to support and service their clients. Interestingly, on the other side of the house, 35% of CIOs say that marketing concerns aren't a high priority to them. 38% of IT CIOs keep deliberately, the word is deliberately, keep marketing out of the loop. And 64% of CIOs say that they are at the bottom of their priority list and feel that they don't need to be aligned with the CMO strategy. What does digital mean for businesses? I think it means a number of these things. And the interesting challenge for me that I sort of wanted to share as well a little bit with the organisations that I work with is how do you get across that CIO-CMO divide? And one thought to share with you would be very related to the case study I want to share that comes from one of the businesses I work in. But it's to really help the business to define what digital means to them. And I think what you often find is there is this exchange of different points of view within an organisation as everybody is trying to figure out, you know, who actually has responsibility, authority, ownership, budget for making these types of decisions. But at the board level, I would suggest the way to win the argument is to be much more creative, to be much more joined up, and to be much more strategic in your dialogue and communication. And the way that I've seen it work the best is when you turn those activities and elements into things that are meaningful. So how are we going to digitize certain segments of the business? How do we move our marketing spend or our IT spend from being analog to digital? How do we take the research and development budget and make that meaningful and different? How can we digitize our client services and create new revenue streams? Those are the things that when you bubble those all up at a board level, resonate and add significant value. By way of an example, I wanted to share with you briefly a quick case study of one of the companies I am a board member of, or ITE PLC. And in fact, of any business, you could argue that this may be one of the hardest to digitise because, as they describe it, we're in the handshake business. So ITE PLC are an international events and exhibitions company. They specialise in emerging markets. They're not consumer events, they're business-to-business events. And so their ethos is bringing the world and bringing you to your customers and your partners in the world. And I thought rather than me rattle on about what ITE do, I'll just show you a very quick glimpse of a video that they have created recently, part of their digital strategy actually, to do that job for me. That's what ITE do, that's what they're about. They are in the handshake business. And when we got our new CMO, who actually has a very digital background, we, as a board, said, you know what, we think we're behind, we think the competition is ahead, we don't know how to do this, we don't know what we should be doing, we need a presentation, we need a strategy. Let's get CMO to the board. And I think because of the way that particular organisation works and because it's quite a slim hierarchy, what had happened was because this individual had come in, they'd come in through one of the markets, they'd come in through an acquisition, they brought with them not only a lot of marketing capability, but actually just generally a lot of technical capability. This individual was tasked not with a marketing digital strategy, but with the digital strategy. And I personally feel that this has made a significant difference. They don't need to be the CDO. We don't need lots of little interest groups springing up all around the business. We have one organisation with one person leading a number of entry points into creating a digital strategy for the company. And before I came, I went back and looked at the set of strategy slides and the original paper that came to the board that started to set out this strategy. And the first item on it is group data governance. Now, if you remember my slide about all the things that your board and your CEO are going to care about, governance is a great word. Sometimes you just have to pick the right words. The next one is group IT, ERP, and BI infrastructure. I have to get quite a long way down the list to number 6, actually, before the word marketing appears. And, you know, in summation, the things that board worry is about, risk, customer risk, data loss, how to ensure that our systems are safe from cyber attack. Those are equally as relevant and important as further down the list, you know, how we need to digitize our customer service, how do we need to do online sales, how might we need to have a different way of connecting to our customers in exhibitions through mobile, for example. They're all on there, but they are all on there in the mix of the total digital strategy for the organisation. And so, moving to the solution fairly quickly, I just wanted to show you what that looked like just from a marketing point of view. So all of those other elements were covered off. Everything got agreed and approved. Budgets got agreed and approved, probably in a much less stressful way than you might imagine, because people could be clear on what the overall picture of that looked like. And then the things that they were particularly interested in around the marketing and around, you know, what does the future connection look like with our customers digitally, got approved. So this is the first iteration of one of those products. It's called World Build 365. ITE do specialise in a number of verticals and actually have market leadership in a number of those verticals globally, and building and interiors is one of them. So I might need your help again, I don't know, I'll just check it. Let's see, and let me show you what a digital handshake business starts to look like.
World Build 365, At ITE Build and Interiors, our exhibitions connect products from 12,000 suppliers with over 1 million building and interiors professionals worldwide. Now, we're also bringing you World Build 365, an online product directory built especially to inspire professionals in the building and interiors industry and connect them with the products and suppliers they're looking for. So if you're looking for products and ideas for future projects, turn to World Build 365's directory and browse what's available from around the world. It's also the place to keep up to date with the latest industry news. And if you want to unlock the full potential of World Build 365, create your own user profile. With a personal account, you can design your own information feed, like and share your favourite products, contact suppliers, share your ideas and opinions and grow your professional network. And if you're a supplier, World Build 365 opens the door to a world of professionals who are searching for products and ideas. It's easy to list your products and to put them in front of more people. There are many premium listing and advertising packages to choose from. And that's not all. World Build 365 is a social platform, making it simple to stay in touch with professionals around the world and keep them up to date with your news. So whether you're a supplier looking to take your products to a global audience or a building and interiors professional looking for a source of new products from around the world, create your account or sign in and list your products and unlock the full potential of World Build 365 now. World Build 365, the product directory that connects your business all day, every day. Visit now.
So in its infancy, launched this year, we had a strategy offsite in the summer where the board looked at this. Again, I think, I'll come on to it in a minute, but getting these things in front of your board. We talked about getting things in front of your CEO makes a huge difference. And getting them to understand as a consumer or as a supplier in this case, how you would interact with that is critical. So let me leave you with some food for thoughts about what you could do. I think the first thing is talk to your board in a language that they understand. And I don't mean talk down to them. I mean talk to them in a language that they understand. These individuals on many of your company boards, and I've looked them up, are captains of industry. They have got years and years and years worth of fabulous knowledge to bring to bear, which is why they're on your board. It may be, however, that they are looking to you, and I'm sure that they are, to help them understand the ways in which the organisation needs to change and move forward, and they are open to those ideas. But bring it to them in a company-wide digital strategy and vision, not just a marketing one. It's very difficult for them to then have to draw up those dots themselves and understand, well, what does that mean? The first question that will come is, well, what does that mean for our distribution strategy if we're going to start to deliver, take all these orders from these customers on a mobile? What does that mean in terms of our customer information strategy? What does that mean for data protection? What are we liable for? They're not going to just look at the one element, which is marketing, and say, gosh, that looks like a great plan, yes, off you go. Their immediate question set is much broader than that. So give them a broader response to start with, and then they can see the whole rather than just the parts. I would strongly suggest that you think about this as a journey as opposed to a specific destination. Take your board on a journey with you. This plan that was presented to us, had a 5-year time horizon, and there are key steps along the way. It's also important because there aren't that many boards that necessarily will sign off, a huge budget, on the basis of a one-page plan, potentially. But they will sign off the steps. And that also gets things across the line, which comes on to my next point, which is demonstrate quick wins. Find ways to take them with you, get them to be able to approve things, go away and execute quickly, and bring it back. Something like World Build 365 was fantastic. We got the URL, we stuck it on our mobiles, we're all sitting there going, oh my God, this is great. Let me send it to my blah, blah, blah. The level of excitement goes up exponentially, and the level of understanding goes up exponentially alongside that. And then really simply, just ensure that the digital strategy discussion makes its way onto a board agenda. Most boards meet somewhere between 8 to 10 times a year. It is not. The bigger the business, the less they meet, funnily enough. So it might be 6 to 8 times a year. But they're easy to find out when they are, but they need signposting and they need signalling. If you turn up in June and say, I want to be on the board meeting agenda for September, I'd say there's a pretty much chance that you're not going to make that. You might get November, more likely you'll get January. So you need to be thinking, you know, a good chunk of time ahead of where you want the most senior people in the business to be. And ultimately, everything comes from the top. If the organisation is aligned at the top, if the board and the CEO are aligned on the digital strategy at the top, it will cascade down the organisation, and you will find it so much easier that those doors that need to be pushed against will open, and you will find very many less boundaries, I would suggest, than you might be anticipating. So I will leave it there in the interest of time, and thank you very much for your attention.
I think Sharon's more than happy to take a few questions now. So, where would you like to start?
Is that on now? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, it's Martin from Tesco Bank.
Hi.
Just digital strategy, or digital, I guess, is a sort of concept reasonably kind of recent. And I'd just be interested in your observations as to, there's a focus on a digital strategy as well as then, I don't say, the bank strategy in totality. To what point do the two converge?
Yeah, great question. I think the answer to that depends on the business. So I'm not trying to fudge it, but clearly the banking industry, if I can continue with your analogy in your world, is one where I would suggest that the two cannot be separated really moving forwards. And in fact, back to the IOD conference that was earlier in the week, there was a panel event where Jose, I can't pronounce his word, the Lloyd's guy, Roberto Osario, thank you very much, my Spanish is poorly, was the keynote speaker. And joining him on the panel were a number of people from, you know, PE, from Crowdcube, from, you know, a number of other up-and-coming, you know, financial organisations who have done exactly what we said. They have entered this market within the last 5 years. They have none of those barriers to entry that the banks have. And they have no preconceived ideas about what they can and they can't do. Many of them have obviously come from the banking industry, and they are busting through a whole bunch of stuff that they just couldn't get done in a bank. I think a really interesting question that was posed and is very relevant is, you know, what do banks do to stay quick and nimble and ahead of the competition, whilst also being very clear about the space that they own and that they want to operate in? And this is always the tricky challenge. You know, Lloyd's have just contracted significantly. They've come out of gazillions of markets. They're just focused on the UK. Well, they do have 4 others actually, but it's a primary market. They're retail and they are B2B, and that's it. So ultimately, I think the organisation has to ground itself very firmly in what is our USP, you know, what is our strategy moving forwards. Now, how do we deliver on that when the world looks like this? And will continue to look like this. And so it would be inconceivable for a bank such as Tesco's or Lloyd's or whomever's to not have, you know, a digital wallet strategy. You know, the fact that we have not done very well in the telecommunications perspective to try and, you know, for those of you that know Weave and what's been going on with that over the last few years, and it's not quite worked and it's been disbanded now, but the intention is still there. You know, we have to find a joined up way to enable people to pay for things on their mobile phones. So do they do that themselves? Do they partner? Do they buy? You know, but that's a digital strategy. So yeah, I think trying to concoct one that doesn't have that understanding would be quite challenging. And of course, that can also work for organisations that perhaps are a distribution business. They never touch a consumer. But, you know, digitised production and distribution is now also, you know, demonstrating the benefit of, you know, greater capability and cost control. So it's hard to find a scenario where the advent of digital disruptive technologies is not a beneficial one, to be honest. But again, it's that journey. You know, that everybody's got to go on that journey. You know, to understand that is the future. the old ways are history.
Sharon, we have another question for you over here. Just say who you are, where you're from.
Hi Sharon, my name is Nicky Doran. I'm the CMO with an energy company in Ireland called Boardroom Energy. And I was very interested in the conversation you were having about CMOs versus CIOs. I'd like to thank you for the extra budgets. But, the question really is, I think you're right. From a CMO and a CIO perspective, they're converging all the time. It's not just at a digital level, but also at a data level. So as propensity modeling becomes more and more important, segmentation becomes more and more important from a marketing automation perspective, I think the CIO and the CMOs have to become closer. And I suppose the question I'm asking is, in your experience, have you come across organizations that have it right yet, where the CMO and the CIO, or at least the marketing and the IT guys, are working together very closely, or in a way that you've seen to be effective?
I do have one example, and it's really only because I had the opportunity to invite a CIO to one of my board meetings at .NET. And again, I did this for a purpose. You'll figure it out as I tell you the story. But I think Home Retail Group are doing a very good job. And the reason I think they're doing a very good job is what they have realised is that the CIO needs to have a much broader set of business skills that they take into the business and business understanding. And the CIO sits on the board. And the CMO needs to have a much broader set and understanding of, let's say, technical skills. I'm not suggesting that the two are going to, totally be able to switch jobs at some point, but actually, when you do that succession planning stuff at a board level, that's not a bad switch. Because the days where the CIO has to be down in the weeds under a desk, and believe me, I've been there too many times plugging wires in, are somewhat long gone. Cloud technology now is so simple and straightforward that really the important matters are understanding of risk. It's about budgeting, it's about critical applications and non-critical applications, what you do in-house, what you do out-house. That's anybody at a senior level of an organisation who can decision make, who can understand those types of issues could do that role in theory. And equally, the CIO could potentially do the CMO's role. They are starting to and do understand very clearly the challenges that now come to bear in a very broad marketing context, particularly around data, for example. I think Home Retail Group are doing quite a good job because they have come together in that way, and they are working alongside one another at a board level, very senior in the organisation, on behalf of the overall group-wide strategy. And I don't know if any of you have seen any of the new Argos digital stores, there's a number of them in London, not so many of them outside of London. But that is a fabulous example, I think, of that coming together of those two roles. It is an understanding of what the technology can bring to bear to the consumer in a marketing-driven, customer-centric way, and it's digital. And not only does it show you what it looks like at the shop front, but the whole process behind the scenes is also changed. And I think that is a really good example where it speaks very well. So, I would, if you wanted to find somebody who I think has done a brilliant job at that, it's the CIO of Home Retail Group.
Sharon, thank you so much.